We recommend watching these videos before viewing this one. This video explains why the knowledge-based search may produce unexpected results after upgrading from Knowledge Management version 2 to 3, and presents best practices for handling article-level access controls during migration. Click an item to go directly to that topic, or continue watching to cover all topics. Here are our knowledge articles in Eureka prior to upgrading to Fuji. In Eureka, access control is at the article level and is based on roles and ACL rules. We have a series of articles intended for managers. Some apply to all managers, while others apply only to managers in either the United States of America or the United Kingdom. For this demonstration, we've tagged the Equal Opportunities articles with locations to help us see clearly which article, the one for US or UK managers, appears when we search. To give access to the right users, first we created a group manager role and gave that role to our managers. And we restricted each manager article by role as shown here. Then, to further limit article access by location, we modified the ACL rules. Here are the ACL rules on the Knowledge table. We're concerned with read access, but access control works the same way for all other operations as well. Notice that there's just one rule for most operations, but for the read operation, there are two. This one is the original base system rule, which allows read access to knowledge articles for users with the knowledge or public role, or if no role is specified in the article. But we've deactivated this rule. Instead, we've activated a customized rule. Here's the role check from the original rule. If that evaluates as true, the script goes on to identify which articles should be accessible to US and UK managers, and then checks to see if the logged-in user's country location allows access to the current article. If true, the article shows up in searches, and the user can view the article. So when we log in as Manfred Manager, a user with the Group Manager role whose location is the USA, and conduct a search, only the articles pertaining to all managers or to US managers come up. The UK manager articles aren't listed. If they were, we would also see the Equal Opportunities UK article here. We can open and read any of the articles that show up in the search results. Now let's see what happens to the article level controls upon upgrade. From previous videos in this series, you know that upon upgrade from Eureka to Fuji or a later release, all legacy KM content is placed in the Knowledge KB, which is tagged as version 2. Any new KBs are tagged as version 3. Here, we're logged in as admin after upgrading to Fuji patch 11. By default, the roles field doesn't appear on the article form because in KM version 3, user criteria is the preferred way to control user access by role. But any roles that come over from KM version 2 continue to restrict user access at the article level. Here are our ACL rules. Now there are two rules, instead of the one we had in Eureka, for most operations. And for the read operation, there are three. This is the one we deactivated in Eureka. Here's our customized rule that came across from Eureka. And here's a new one which was added during the upgrade. All ACL rules that were present in Eureka have been modified with a condition specifying that now they apply only to a version 2 KB, meaning the Knowledge KB. This access control rule is enforced the same as before, for article viewing purposes only. As we'll see shortly, it doesn't restrict search results. This new rule applies only to version 3 KBs. It checks the can-read user criteria to allow access. So with the exception of customized rules after upgrade, each operation has two ACL rules, one to govern access to version 2 articles, and one to govern access to version 3 articles. Here we're logged in as our US manager, Manfred Manager, after upgrading. all content is still in the knowledge KB. The search function here operates on user criteria for all knowledge bases, whether they're version 2, like this one, or version 3. So if Manfred searches for articles before migration to version 3 KBs, there's no mechanism to prevent records he shouldn't see, like this UK article, from appearing in the search results. In the KM version 3 knowledge module, after some content has been migrated but the version 2 knowledge KB is still active, the featured content, most useful, and most viewed lists may contain articles the user shouldn't see. Search results are unrestricted, just as they were in the version 2 KB, so articles that the user can't view may appear here. And the knowledge bases, categories, and authors lists may also include items that aren't available to the logged-in user. ACL rules still do apply at the article level, so Manfred can't view the UK article or access any of the other content that he shouldn't have access to. But he can view the USA article because he does have access to that one. ACL rules that restricted access in KM version 2 don't restrict search results after upgrade. One other thing. In individual KM version 3 KBs, this Create Content button allows users who meet the Can Create user criteria to create new knowledge articles. If a user doesn't meet the criteria, the button doesn't appear. However, as long as the version 2 knowledge KB is still active, the button appears on the knowledge homepage whether or not the logged-in user has permission to create content. That's because ACL rules are not evaluated when the knowledge homepage is loaded. If there's an ACL rule that prevents this user from creating content, it'll be evaluated and the user will be denied access only when the Create Content button is clicked. Hopefully, now you understand why you should migrate to Knowledge Management version 3 as soon as possible after upgrading from Eureka to Fuji or later. These two videos will help you accomplish that. Here we've added some of the KM version 3 modules to the Application Navigator. After upgrade, the KM version 2 article level roles continue to be enforced in the Knowledge KB. Before migrating those articles to version 3 knowledge bases, which are controlled at the KB level by user criteria, you should remove the article level roles. We can easily see which articles have role restrictions by adding the roles field to the list. But we can't edit them here in the list. To do that, we need to go into each article. By default, the roles field doesn't appear on the article form, but we need to access this field during migration to remove article level role restrictions from legacy content. Now we just remove the roles from each article. After confirming that we got rid of them all, we should remove the roles field from the article form and from this list. When we migrate this content to the Management KB, the whole knowledge base will be restricted by user criteria. Here, we've already migrated some of our content from the version 2 Knowledge KB to version 3 KBs, as shown in this video. But we haven't yet migrated our management articles because they rely on this customized ACL read rule, and we need to take care of that first. We're logged in as admin, elevated to security admin. We'll need that role to deactivate our customized ACL rule here after we migrate its logic. We've already created a management KB and defined user criteria to restrict read access to users with the group manager role. Some articles in this KB will be accessible to all group managers, but other articles will be restricted to those in either the USA or the UK. The Locations field in User Criteria applies to the whole KB, and in our instance, the Location field in User Records contains a street address rather than a country. We need to check the Country field on the Location table to limit article access by country. Location is not the field we need to check. So we have a couple of options here. We could create 3 management KBs, one for all managers, one for managers in the USA, and one for managers in the UK, and restrict the USA and UK knowledge bases by location using a script in the user criteria to check the logged-in user's country value on the location table. Or we could create one management KB and use a before query business rule to limit access to particular articles by the logged-in user's country. We're going to take this approach, but first we'll show you how the multiple KB scenario would work. We've set it up in a different instance. Here are our 3 management KBs. This one provides read access to all group managers. We've also specified who can contribute, because if a knowledge base has can read user criteria defined, but no can contribute user criteria, all users with at least one role can access and modify the knowledge base. This one provides read access to managers in the USA through the roles field, and a script that checks the location country value for the logged-in user. The script field is available only when Advanced is selected, and here Match All ensures that only users who meet both the role and script criteria get access to the KB. The preferred way to migrate ACL rules is through user criteria, which we just demonstrated. But there are some situations where you might need to convert ACL rules to business rules instead of, or in addition to, user criteria. One is where you have a lot of content restricted by ACL rules, and you can't migrate to user criteria immediately after upgrading. In this case, you can convert customized ACL rules to business rules as a temporary fix to properly restrict search results in the version 2 Knowledge KB until you're ready to convert your ACLs to user criteria. Another scenario is if your ACL rules restrict access in a way that's too complex to implement by user criteria alone. For example, we don't want to separate our management content into multiple KBs to restrict access by location. Instead, we want a single management knowledge base. We can restrict the role to group managers with user criteria. And we'll use a before query business rule to check the article being accessed against the logged-in user's location. The first thing we need to do is create a location field on the knowledge article form. We'll use it to indicate on location-restricted articles which location has access. Let's capitalize the label and note the name of the element U_location. We'll need it for our business rule. This particular article should be restricted to US managers. Here, we've filled in the location field for all articles to be restricted by user location. So we're ready to create our business rule, which we'll call Location Check for KB. It'll operate on the knowledge table, and its active checkbox should be selected. The advanced options allow us to specify that this is a before query business rule. We prepared this script earlier, so we'll just paste it here. It checks the logged-in user's location country value against the location value in the article that is being accessed. If they match, or if the location value in the article is blank, meaning it's not restricted by location, the article is displayed to the user. Exceptions are those with the admin, knowledge admin, or knowledge manager role, because these users need access to all KB articles. When Manfred Manager logs in, he sees only one management KB. And in searches and lists, he sees only articles he has access to, those intended for managers located in the USA, or managers regardless of location. For more information, please consult our product documentation, knowledge base, or podcast, or ask a question in the ServiceNow community.